The year is 1778. The American Revolution rages, but not on grand battlefields alone. No, the true war, the one that would decide the fate of a nascent nation, was being fought in the shadows, whispered in coded letters, and marked by signals visible only to a select few. Imagine a world where the very act of putting pen to paper or hanging laundry out to dry could be an act of profound patriotism, a life-or-death gamble for liberty. This is the world of the Culper Ring, America's first homegrown spy network, an invisible army orchestrated by none other than General George Washington himself. Their mission: to outwit the mightiest military power on Earth without firing a single shot. But how could a small band of ordinary citizens, farmers, merchants, and even women hope to gather vital intelligence from deep within enemy territory, right under the noses of the British Army? The answer lies in a meticulous web of deception, a groundbreaking system of espionage that would forever alter the course of history. The struggle for American independence was a grueling, often desperate affair. By 1778, the war had dragged on for 3 long years, and the Continental Army, often undersupplied and outmatched, faced a formidable foe in the British. New York City, a jewel on the Atlantic coast, had fallen to the British in August 1776 following the Battle of Long Island. This strategic port city became the primary headquarters for British operations in North America, a bustling hub of military activity, loyalist sentiment, and crucial intelligence. For Washington, this British stronghold was both a curse and an opportunity. He desperately needed to know the enemy's plans, troop movements, and supply lines if he stood any chance of gaining an advantage. Earlier attempts at intelligence gathering had met with tragic results. Nathan Hale, a young and idealistic officer, was famously captured and executed by the British in September 1776, leaving behind the poignant regret that he had but one life to lose for his country. His sacrifice underscored the immense risks of espionage and the critical need for a more sophisticated, more secure network. Enter a young, ambitious officer named Major Benjamin Tallmadge. Born in Setauket, Long Island in 1754, Tallmadge was a Yale College graduate and a childhood friend of Nathan Hale. Commissioned a lieutenant in the Continental Army in 1776, he had quickly risen through the ranks, participating in key engagements, such as the Battle of Long Island. Washington, recognizing Tallmadge's intellect and organizational skills, appointed him as the Director of Military Intelligence in November 1778, tasking him with a seemingly impossible mission: to establish a clandestine spy network in and around British-occupied New York City. Tallmadge understood that traditional military espionage was too risky. He needed individuals who could move freely, whose presence in British territory wouldn't immediately arouse suspicion. He turned to his trusted friends and neighbors from his hometown of Setauket, Long Island, a tight-knit community with strong patriot sympathies despite being behind enemy lines. This decision laid the groundwork for what would become the most effective intelligence-gathering operation of the entire war: the Culper Ring. The name Culper itself was a clever invention, suggested by George Washington and derived from Culpeper County, Virginia, a subtle nod to the clandestine nature of their work. At the heart of this fledgling network was Abraham Woodhull, a farmer from Setauket, Long Island, and another childhood friend of Tallmadge. Woodhull, though initially hesitant due to the extreme danger, accepted the perilous role, operating under the alias Samuel Culper Sr. His cover involved traveling regularly from Setauket to British-occupied Manhattan, ostensibly to sell farm produce or visit his sister. These trips, however, were carefully crafted opportunities to observe, to listen, and to gather vital information about British forces. Woodhull was the primary coordinator from Setauket, responsible for evaluating reports and determining what intelligence would be sent to Washington. The constant threat of exposure was very real. In June 1779, the British even suspected Woodhull and attempted to arrest him in Setauket, though he managed to avoid capture. This near miss only reinforced the need for even greater security and a more diversified network. To provide a deeper penetration into the heart of British operations in New York City, Woodhull recruited Robert Townsend, a well-connected merchant from Oyster Bay, Long Island. Townsend operated a Manhattan-based merchant shipping firm, which provided an excellent cover for his clandestine activities. As Samuel Culper Jr., and sometimes by the code number 723, Townsend frequented coffee houses, social gatherings, and other public places where British officers discussed their plans and movements, collecting a wealth of crucial intelligence. He was a society journalist, a keen observer, and a master of blending in, allowing him to glean information without arousing suspicion. Townsend was so dedicated to secrecy that he insisted his true identity never be revealed, not even to General Washington himself. This compartmentalization was a cornerstone of the Culper Ring's remarkable success in remaining undetected for 5 years. The intelligence gathered by Woodhull and Townsend needed a reliable and discreet way to reach Washington, who was often headquartered in New Windsor, New York. This critical link in the chain was filled by Caleb Brewster, a daring whaleboat captain and another Setauket native. Brewster's expertise as a seaman and his intimate knowledge of Long Island Sound made him indispensable. He ran regular perilous trips across the Sound, transporting messages between Long Island and Connecticut, often battling British ships far larger than his whaleboat. Brewster was also an intelligence gatherer in his own right, often reporting directly to Washington on British naval activities in the New York City area. Uniquely among the main operatives, Brewster was known to sign some letters under his real name, though he also had a code number, 725. Despite the British knowing his name and his activities in and around Setauket, he was never captured. But the network extended even further, incorporating a crucial, yet often overlooked, element: the signal woman. Anna Smith Strong, a neighbor of Abraham Woodhull in Setauket, played a vital role in coordinating the perilous cross-sound journeys. Her home on Strong's Neck offered a clear view of the bay. According to tradition, Anna used a seemingly innocuous act of domesticity, hanging laundry on her clothesline to send coded messages to Caleb Brewster. A black petticoat, for instance, signaled that Brewster was in town. The number of white handkerchiefs hung alongside it would indicate which of 6 secluded coves Brewster was hiding his whaleboat in, providing a discreet rendezvous point for Woodhull to deliver the intelligence. Her method was brilliant in its simplicity and allowed her to operate directly under the British's radar, who underestimated the capabilities of women in espionage. The methods employed by the Culper Ring were revolutionary for their time. Beyond the clever use of signals, they relied heavily on invisible ink and a sophisticated numerical code. Dr. James J., brother of Founding Father John Jay, developed a special sympathetic stain, an invisible ink that required a specific chemical compound, known as a reagent, to reveal the hidden writing. This made interception far less dangerous, as a seemingly innocent letter could pass through enemy hands without betraying its true contents. Washington himself received an initial supply of this innovative ink in December 1778, recognizing its immense value for securing communications. Complementing the invisible ink was a detailed codebook, developed by Tallmadge, which transformed words, names, and places into numerical sequences. General Washington, for example, was assigned the code number 711. New York was 727. England was 745. This dictionary of 763 numbers ensured that even if a letter was intercepted and the invisible ink discovered, the message would remain unintelligible to the British without the corresponding key. The creation and distribution of this codebook were meticulously controlled, with copies given only to Washington, Tallmadge, Woodhull, and Townsend to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. The establishment of the Culper Ring in late October 1778 marked a turning point in Washington's intelligence efforts. Previously, intelligence gathering had been less organized and more reactive. Now, Washington had a dedicated embedded network operating deep within British territory, systematically collecting information. This shift was a direct response to the critical need for reliable, continuous intelligence after the British had firmly established their headquarters in New York City for the duration of the war. The city itself was a complex melting pot of loyalties, with a significant loyalist population and a constant influx of refugees, making it an ideal, albeit dangerous, environment for clandestine operations. The British occupation was characterized by martial law, rampant looting, and a bustling black market, which ironically also offered avenues for spies to move and gather information. The stage was set for a secret war, where whispers were weapons and hidden messages held the power to change the tide of revolution. The very air in British-occupied New York City crackled with peril. For General Washington's nascent intelligence network, the stakes were unimaginably high. Every whispered conversation, every surreptitious glance, every coded message carried the weight of life or death, freedom or failure. The memory of Nathan Hale, Washington's idealistic young spy caught and executed by the British just 2 years prior, loomed large, a grim reminder of the fate awaiting those who dared to operate in the shadows. It underscored Washington's resolve to create an intelligence system that was not only effective but also meticulously secure, prioritizing the safety of his agents above all else. At the heart of this intricate web was Abraham Woodhull, codenamed Samuel Culper Sr. A farmer from Setauket, Long Island, Woodhull was initially hesitant to plunge into the treacherous world of espionage. Yet, the oppressive reality of British occupation, with soldiers commandeering homes and supplies, fueled a growing resentment. The death of his cousin, Continental Brigadier General Nathaniel Woodhull, at the hands of the British in 1776, likely hardened his resolve, transforming personal grievance into a powerful motivation for the patriot cause. Risking arrest for trading with the enemy, Woodhull would sail to British-held New York City to sell his produce, using these trips as a plausible cover to gather vital intelligence. He became the linchpin, coordinating the flow of information from deep within enemy territory. His anxiety, however, was constant, a palpable fear of discovery that permeated his every action. Recognizing the immense danger of his direct trips into the city, Woodhull soon enlisted a crucial operative, Robert Townsend, known as Samuel Culper Jr. Townsend, a seemingly innocuous merchant and owner of a dry goods store and coffee shop in Manhattan, proved to be a master of deception. His business catered to British officers, making his establishments popular gathering spots where unwitting enemy soldiers would openly discuss troop movements, supply lines, and fortifications. Townsend even reinforced his loyalist cover by writing pro-Tory articles for the Royal Gazette. Washington himself provided explicit instructions for Townsend: mix as much as possible among the officers and refugees, visit the coffee houses, and all public places. He is to pay particular attention to the movements by land and water in and about the city, especially. Townsend's insistence on remaining anonymous, even from Washington, speaks volumes about the psychological burden and the need for absolute compartmentalization in this deadly game. The intelligence gathered by Townsend in the bustling heart of New York City then embarked on a perilous journey to reach Washington. The chain of communication was a marvel of clandestine ingenuity, each link designed to appear innocent while serving a clandestine purpose. First, Townsend would pass his meticulously gathered reports, often written in invisible ink between the lines of a seemingly ordinary letter, to Austin Rowe, a tavern keeper from Setauket. Rowe, whose cover involved purchasing supplies for his tavern, would then carry these hidden messages more than 50 miles across Long Island to Woodhull's farm in Setauket. The risk for Rowe was immense, as any stop by a British patrol could lead to the discovery of incriminating evidence and a swift, brutal end. Once the messages reached Setauket, another layer of brilliant simplicity came into play, orchestrated by Anna Smith Strong. A friend and neighbor of Woodhull, Anna's role was to signal the arrival of the next courier, Caleb Brewster, and indicate the precise location where he had hidden his boat. Her method was disarmingly simple, easily dismissed by unsuspecting British eyes. Laundry hung on her clothesline. A black petticoat signaled Brewster's presence in town. The number of white handkerchiefs displayed alongside it would then correspond to one of 6 predetermined coves, where Brewster had concealed his whaleboat. This ingenious system allowed Woodhull to meet Brewster under the cover of darkness and pass on the vital intelligence. Caleb Brewster, a daring whaleboatman and Continental Artillery lieutenant, was perhaps the most exposed member of the ring. He was the perilous final link in the chain from Long Island, ferrying messages across the treacherous waters of Long Island Sound to Major Benjamin Tallmadge in Connecticut. Brewster was a known patriot, and British frigates constantly patrolled the Sound, making every trip a high-stakes gamble against capture and certain death. His bravery was legendary. On one occasion, he refrained from capturing a British lieutenant who stumbled upon him, to avoid drawing suspicion on Anna Strong and the network. Brewster was, in fact, the only member of the ring whom the British had definitively identified as a spy. Upon receiving the dispatches, Tallmadge, known by his code name, John Bolton, would then meticulously copy the messages, often adding his own observations, before dispatching them via a series of couriers to General Washington. The technical details of their spycraft were equally sophisticated for their time. The invisible ink, often referred to as a sympathetic stain, was crucial. Unlike common heat-developed inks, this specific formula, possibly developed by John Jay's brother, Sir James Jay, required a unique chemical reagent to reveal its contents. The ink itself was a pale yellow when wet and dried completely invisible, demanding high-quality new paper for optimal results. This ensured that if a letter was intercepted, it would appear to be an innocent correspondence, betraying nothing of the hidden text. Complementing this was the detailed codebook, a numerical dictionary transforming sensitive words, names, and places into sequences of numbers, further safeguarding the messages, even if the invisible ink were somehow discovered. Washington, for example, was 711, New York City was 727, and England, 745, the meticulous control over these tools, with copies limited to only a few trusted individuals, ensured their integrity. The psychological toll on these spies was immense. Operating under aliases, constantly maintaining a facade of loyalty to the crown, and living with the omnipresent fear of exposure demanded extraordinary mental fortitude. Every interaction, every decision, was weighed against the potential for catastrophic consequences. Yet the why that drove them was a potent mix of patriotism, a deep-seated desire for freedom from British tyranny, and in some cases personal vengeance. They were ordinary citizens, farmers and merchants, who chose to engage in a dishonorable business for the sake of an honorable cause. The intelligence gleaned by the Culper Ring was nothing short of revolutionary, proving instrumental in several pivotal moments of the war. Their warnings enabled Washington to avert a devastating British ambush on newly arrived French forces under Lieutenant General Rochambeau at Newport, Rhode Island, in 1780. They exposed a British plot to flood the American economy with counterfeit continental currency, prompting Congress to recall the bills. Most dramatically, it was intelligence from the Culper Ring, particularly involving Agent 355, that unveiled Benedict Arnold's treasonous plot to surrender West Point to the British. Though Arnold ultimately escaped, the information led to the capture and execution of his British accomplice, Major John Andre, highlighting the devastating effectiveness of Washington's invisible army. The Culper Ring's meticulous reports, detailing British troop movements, strengths, fortifications, and morale, allowed Washington to make informed strategic decisions, often keeping him one step ahead of a numerically superior enemy. This network of ordinary individuals, acting with extraordinary courage, truly held the power to change the tide of the revolution, one secret whisper at a time. The revelation of Benedict Arnold's treachery, brought to light by the Culper Ring's daring intelligence, sent shockwaves through the American cause. While Arnold himself slipped away, the hanging of Major John Andre served as a grim testament to the high stakes of espionage and the devastating effectiveness of Washington's invisible army. Yet, the exposure of such a high-ranking defector only underscored the continued vital need for the network. The British, now acutely aware of American intelligence capabilities, would undoubtedly tighten their security, making the Culper Ring's work even more perilous. But the spies persevered, their resolve hardened by the realization of just how close the rebellion had come to catastrophic failure. The immediate aftermath saw heightened vigilance on both sides. The Culper Ring, however, continued its painstaking work, its members constantly refining their methods and deepening their commitment. Their reports, often ferried across treacherous waterways by Caleb Brewster and painstakingly decoded by Washington's trusted aides, provided a continuous stream of information on British troop movements, supply lines, and morale within New York City. This intelligence was critical, allowing Washington to anticipate British intentions and prepare his defenses, often against a numerically superior foe. The fear of exposure remained a constant companion, a silent, unseen adversary that stalked their every move. Each whisper of a new British patrol, each suspicious glance could mean the end of their mission and their lives. The psychological burden was immense, a silent battle waged within each operative every single day. As the war entered its final, decisive phase, the Culper Ring's contributions became more critical than ever, culminating in a brilliant deception that would seal the fate of the British in America. Washington, with the arrival of French reinforcements under Lieutenant General Rochambeau, began to formulate his audacious plan to strike at General Cornwallis in Yorktown, Virginia. To achieve this, he needed to keep the British commander-in-chief, Sir Henry Clinton, convinced that a grand assault on New York City was imminent. This elaborate ruse required meticulous planning and flawless execution, and the Culper Ring became an indispensable part of this strategic misdirection. Their agents in New York City began to leak fabricated intelligence, subtly reinforcing the impression that Washington and Rochambeau were preparing for a massive siege of the British stronghold. False messages were allowed to fall into British hands, detailing supposed logistical preparations for a New York assault. The Culper Ring, through its established channels, continued to report on these preparations as if they were genuine, strengthening the illusion. Abraham Woodhull, Culper Sr., and Robert Townsend, Culper Jr., meticulously crafted reports that mixed real, less critical intelligence with cleverly embedded disinformation. These reports, combined with overt movements of American and French troops towards New York, successfully convinced Clinton that Washington's primary objective was his position. This elaborate dance of deception allowed the Allied forces to slip away, marching south undetected towards Yorktown, where they would ultimately trap Cornwallis. The ability of the Culper Ring to maintain this convincing illusion, even as the main army was hundreds of miles away, was a testament to their skill and the depth of trust Washington placed in them. The intelligence they gathered and manipulated directly contributed to the success of the Yorktown campaign, a pivotal moment that effectively ended the Revolutionary War, with the surrender of Cornwallis at Yorktown in October 1781. And the subsequent Treaty of Paris in 1783, the American Revolution finally drew to a close. The need for Washington's secret army dwindled, and the Culper Ring, having served its purpose with extraordinary effectiveness, began to disband. For many years, the identities of its members remained shrouded in secrecy, a testament to Washington's unwavering commitment to protect those who had risked everything for the cause of liberty. He understood that revealing their names could put them, and their families, in danger, even after the war's conclusion. The spies, once vital cogs in the clandestine machinery of war, quietly returned to their civilian lives. Farmers resumed their tilling, merchants reopened their shops, and ferry operators continued their crossings, carrying not secrets, but ordinary cargo. Their incredible contributions remained largely unacknowledged by the public for generations, their heroism etched not in monuments, but in the annals of secret military history. The true identities of Abraham Woodhull, Robert Townsend, Caleb Brewster, Anna Strong, and even the enigmatic Agent 355 were guarded fiercely. It was not until the 20th century that historians, poring over Washington's meticulously preserved correspondence, began to piece together the extraordinary story of the Culper Ring. The painstaking work of scholars like Morton Pennypacker brought their forgotten achievements to light, revealing the depth of their sacrifice and the profound impact they had on the birth of a nation. Agent 355, whose intelligence proved crucial in exposing Arnold's plot, remains an enduring mystery. Her true name, lost to time, symbolizes the ultimate sacrifice of those who served in the shadows, their contributions often without public recognition or personal glory. She represents the untold stories, the unseen heroes, and the ultimate cost of a commitment to freedom. The legacy of the Culper Ring is multifaceted and profound. They proved that a numerically inferior force, when armed with superior intelligence, could effectively challenge and ultimately overcome a seemingly insurmountable adversary. Their story redefined the art of espionage, laying the groundwork for future intelligence operations and highlighting the vital role of human intelligence in times of conflict. More importantly, the Culper Ring stands as a powerful testament to the extraordinary courage of ordinary citizens. They were not professional soldiers, but farmers, merchants, and patriots who chose to engage in the dishonorable business of spying for the sake of an honorable cause, the independence of their burgeoning nation. Their silent whispers, coded messages, and daring acts of espionage fundamentally altered the course of history, ensuring that the dream of a free America could become a reality. The invisible army, Washington's spies, forever changed the tide of the revolution, one secret whisper at a time, ensuring that the ideals of liberty and self-determination would ultimately prevail. Their valor, long hidden, now shines as a beacon of patriotic duty and unwavering resolve, reminding us that true heroism often operates in the deepest shadows, shaping the world in ways we may never fully comprehend.